Okay, so first things first, safety. We're going to be messing with refrigerant, so we're going to make sure we put some gloves on. We do this because we don't want to frostbite ourselves. And we're going to verify what's going on with our system by getting some gauges. Got some AC gauges. Now, fortunately, I do actually have the quals to do this way back in the day. Getting some AC and HVAC qualifications so that I can deal with refrigerant. And we're going to remove the low side and the low pressure and high pressure vents covers. Look up the low side. Blue goes to the low side. Red goes to the high side. Okay, starting at 0. We've hooked up the low side on the low, high side on the high. All valves done. All the gauges are closed off tight. We're going to open up low side and high side. We're going to start the vehicle and come back, see what they say. All right, we're going to fire it up. Full blower, AC. Let's go see what she's doing. All right, so we're getting, so we've got a charge. We're cycling between 20 and 30, or 25 and 30 pounds on the low side. And it's just not creating pressure on the high side. We should be seeing something more like 150 pounds coming out of it. That is what had, and pulling it apart previously, and pulling the expansion valve, found a bunch of junk in there, so that led me to conclude, yeah, the compressor's probably shot and it's time to replace it. So, with it shut down, we've got connections attached there. We're going to make sure that all our fittings are tight at every point along here. I like to keep shut-off valves on our way in. This is going to be our recycling reclamation pump, pressure pump that's going to pull the refrigerant out of the car and shove it into that reclamation tank. So we're going to get everything plugged up and then we'll walk through all the pieces. Okay, so we're attached on the low side, we're attached on the high side. The valve is open. Coming back in to the gauge. All the fittings are tight. Coming out to the intake, that's a little filter coming in. Making sure those fittings are all tight. Fittings tight. Ooh, yeah, glad we checked that one. That one was loose. Fittings tight, fittings tight. And now we are going to turn on the pump, open it up for vapor, open it up, start opening up shut-off valves. Open up the low side. Felt like it didn't have a stop on that. So close it off. Just make sure it's got. We can capture it from both sides. You see it's pulling refrigerant oil in, those bubbles into the glass valve. And then look at the gauges. Should see it's pulling the pressure. Pressure's coming down. We got 100 psi on the tank side, pressurized. That tank's ready to go up to about 400, so we got plenty of space to go. And now we're going to leave it be while it drains down. And it's continuing on. see it dropping bit by bit. I like that it's going slow. Most of the time spent is just that you have to take all the refrigerant out of it and it has to compress it into the reclamation tank. That's going to take a bit, so I'm just going to go crack a beer and see what happens. While we're waiting, we're going to dig at a bunch of the little clips that hold this thing together. I can never remember where all of them are, so I'm going to have to fuss around a little bit, find them all, and I'll report back on all the little pieces you have to pull apart to get the front off. I always hate this 20-year-old or more plastic, so starting with these turn signals, they pry out. You want to make sure you use plastic so you don't pull things out. If you look way down in here, you can see you can insert a pry bar. Tough to do with one hand. There we go. Popped it off. This little guy, this little tab right there is what you're trying to compress. And you can get at that from the top down. And then you need to compress these, pull them off, set that aside. See if it's any easier to get this one off. Looking down, I can just take this pry bar, shove it into the back from the top, pull it out. Yeah, that's not too bad, and it comes right out. It was pushing down and compressing this guy. Now it's gotta pull that, and that should come off. Still chugging away, not quite down to zero yet. We'll go ahead and let it get just a little bit of a vacuum before we pull it off. Okay, on the outside here for this mount, for the front trim, there's a T25 Torx. That out. There we go, that's loose. Now, other things to look for, there was a clip that goes here. There's a clip that goes here, and then underneath you need to pry down on these little clips that held one in that slot there and a little bit there that held that slot in there. Now continuing on, T25 Torx. Pull the passenger side of the trim off. And that should slide forward, and this whole trim piece comes off. Strongly recommend, wherever possible, put hardware back in the hole it came from. That way you won't lose it. So, that'll be waiting for us there later. You won't have to remember which thing goes in. Now for my favorite tool in the whole toolbox, Sunix makes a really nice 1/4-inch drive impact socket kit, which I use. It's basically the first thing I grab for just about everything I do. So that, an impact driver, and a little socket extension on it means you can make short work of everything else. So there is one. Pausing to collect the screw. There we go, got that one out. 2. Oop, fell out. Thank you. At the bottom. 3 and 4. We'll collect those up. Put them in a little magnetic tray. All right, to pull the rest of this, it's gotta kind of come forward and to the inside. So we're gonna grab it, pull it a little bit, so it comes loose, and now we can get it just the one cannon plug. Ooh, it's pretty stubborn. It's not too bad. Came off, and now the whole headlamp assembly comes off. Continuing on, same thing on the passenger side. Bolt at the bottom. Yeah, it'll fall at the bottom. Catch it later. comes forward, add slightly to the inside, and it pulls forward. And then I gotta pinch these pretty hard. Struggle. There we go. All right, so these are pinch connectors to release little tabs on the inside. If you have a problem with them, blow a little compressed in there, air in there, maybe some silicone spray to help it along. You can see how my clips attaching these are broken off, long ago, and held on there with some aluminum tape instead. And just to do it right, let's make sure we put those pieces of hardware back in the holes they came from. Saved me a lot of trouble from trying to figure out where things go. This is a big job, and I don't think I've ever done a big job that went according to plan, so just plan on everything. Every time you take something apart, it's going to stay taken apart for a month, and you're not going to remember how you took it all apart. So either take pictures, if it is yourself, you will either label your hardware for where it's going to go, or I still like just put it back in the hole it came from. That way you can't lose it. They'll be waiting for us later. All right, next thing. Ooh, yeah, looks like we've completely evacuated the system. It's pulled a vacuum on it now, so we're going to go ahead and shut it off. Actually, I'm going to close off the valves. Make sure it's closed off back here. Shut off valve. Shut off valve. Closed. Closed. Then we shut it off. And do the shut off valves all the way back up the system. Closing everything off. All right. And this has got just a tiny bit of vacuum on it, but it was already leaking, so I'm pretty sure that vacuum will leak off by the time I get to it. Now we've got the system evacuated, and we can pull out, we can remove all the rest of the things, and from this point on, it's just a plumbing job. Pops off nice and easy, so nothing left. Make sure as soon as you take those things off, you put them right back on the gauges where you got them. This is just the cheap Harbor Freight gauges. I think they're about 70, 80 bucks or something like that. Maybe a little cheaper when they're on sale. Okay, moving on to the next thing. Okay, next up, we've got a 10 and a 13 mil. 13 mil. Take off this bolt. And a 10 mil. Move this one. And then this cover piece. Should pop at the top. May need a pry bar. There we go. Pry that up. And then set that aside. Another little access cover over on the passenger side. Just pinch this forward. It should pull up. Slide out of the way. And we'll set that aside. All right, now that we've pulled off some of those panels, let's look at how the system comes out. So starting with back here, the expansion valve, this is coming from the evaporator core back on the firewall on the passenger side. And the large aluminum pipe coming out of that, that's the low pressure side. And that's where we were hooking up with that blue, the blue side of the gauges on the low pressure side. That comes down, then to a flexible pipe, down into the AC compressor, which is down below the alternator. The compressor does its thing, compresses the air, then it compresses the refrigerant, then it comes out the high pressure side. This is now high pressure and hot, and it goes into the condenser, which is this radiator looking thing up front. It's actually in front of the radiator. Comes out the bottom of the condenser, down into the receiver dryer, which is, well, for right now, it's covered up. It's underneath, back behind the bumper on the passenger side, but we'll get to that later. And then coming up out of the receiver dryer. That's where any, it's kind of a filter. It allows, junk to get filtered out of there, and also holds excess refrigerant oil. This is still high pressure side, and it's still pretty, it's now cooled off from the condenser. Comes up, this small pipe comes out here into the high pressure side of the expansion valve, and then it goes from high pressure to low pressure there, and that's what makes it get really cold. Latent heat of vaporization. Then into the evaporator core, which is inside the cab. Gets really cold, blow air over it, that gives you that lovely AC, and then it comes back out again to that low pressure side. To make easier access to some of the parts in the back, I'm going to pull the air filter box and the intake hose out of the way. So we'll start with this, MAF electronics connection there. A hose. That thing's pretty stubborn. I think I'm going to grab a screwdriver for that one. So when this little hose gets unfriendly, just take a little screwdriver and work it in there and push the hose off instead of just pulling it. See if that loosened up. It ain't. Pretty unfriendly. Oh yeah, I'd made that a little. Sometimes these leak, so sometimes I take a little bit of heat shrink tubing over the end to dress them up a bit. And now there's some clips. There's 4 clips. 1, 2, and 1 way down in here. Oop, looks like that was already popped off. And then another one deep down under here. There we are. 4 clips, and that's loose. Now I'm going to need a big pair of pliers to loosen up these clamps here. I like a big set of adjustable pliers. Grab those clamps, just loosen them up. A little bit off to the side. And then we should be able to pull that off. Ooh, and this, I guess we don't need to pull that off the bottom. This whole box should come out now. It doesn't try to take the filter with it. Yeah, it's trying to grab my whole filter with me. I'm going to wrestle with it a little bit. Yeah, let's see if we can wrestle this one off. Need 2 hands for this one. There we are. Pull that aside. And now, that slides out much easier now. Keep those together. Off to the side they go. Getting dark out. Doesn't matter. We got light. Next thing we're going to take off is we're going to remove this top piece. This top rigid support that goes over the top of the radiator. And we'll start by pulling off the hood latch with those 2 10mm bolts right there. And there's 1, 2 on the passenger side, and 3, 4 on the driver's side. Bolts holding that on, and a little screw holding on a little piece of trim. And then we'll take that all off. So. Just that easy. Let's go grab a screwdriver real quick. This is such a great tool for making things easy. It's just a little adapter and then screwdriver instead. Set that aside. Put our bolts back where we found them. I'm pretty sure it'll be there later. Okay, something's still attached. What's still on there? Probably this guy's gonna come out. I'll set that aside. And 13 mil. Probably this guy's got to come out. Is this thing ready to come out yet? Nope, not quite. We still got a power steering reservoir attached. And what else? What else is attached to that thing? And we'll dig around a little bit. Okay, added a little wobbly 10 mil to the adapter to make sure we can get in here and get some of these, get around the corner. Save myself a little bit of time. Here's a second one of those. Yeah, that was pretty easy. Next thing was a little holder for the power steering reservoir. That's just a little 7 mil socket, so we can just be able to release that and pull it off the top. Now, should be able to slide all this stuff off of there. What else are we hung up on? We're probably hung up on something. Oh yeah, gotta remember to get the other two on the other side. Loosen those up a little off camera. Looks like it's just about. Let's lift. Oh, here we go. Yeah, there we are. All come off the front. And once again, put the hardware back in the holes it came from. All right, next thing we're going to focus on is 1, 2, 3, and down below 4 that hold on this shroud for the front of the radiator and condenser. We're going to go get the power tools. Yeah, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So, got a nice, funky corner bender there. There we are. Pull that right off. And we can get the front-facing ones. Angle the rest of this off of there. Next, this little bracket here. And it doesn't look like we're removing the shroud because we can just pull the condenser right up at the top. Looks like it's held in at the bottom, so we'll kind of leave it where it's at. Okay, now we've got the condenser exposed and loose. Looks like it's just floating in there. And the next thing we'll be doing is separating the condenser from the pipe. Next thing I'm going to want to do is take the bumper off. I think I want a little more room to work on it, so first thing we're going to do is jack it up. Now, I'm a little lazy, so I'm going to jack it up right in the middle under the cross member and put my jack stands on either side of those. Okay, a little bit under the cross member. We're going to go ahead and loosen up the tires, lug nuts real quick, and then we'll jack it up a little more and put the jack stands under it. Okay, now she's up on jack stands, and we'll get the rest of the lug nuts out on the front tires. Okay, took the lug wheels off, stowed the lug nuts on the tire slide it underneath the car for safety, a little additional. All right, next we're gonna remove off some of the trim for the wheels. So on the driver's side, we see 1, 2, 3. What do those look like? A T25 or something like that. And then the same number on the other side.